Well, welcome everyone to Tuesday, October the 13th, Vail Lunch and Learn. Today we have with us Gail Brunk, Vail's Executive Director, and she's going to be talking to us about RUAM and VHDA and other housing modification options. So thank you for joining, and I will turn it over to Gail.
Okay, hi. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Gail Brunk, Executive Director for Valley Associates for Independent Living. And today we're going to talk about home modifications and how to access them. So I did prepare a PowerPoint for your references, and I can send this out to you when we are done. But we're going to begin with accessing housing modifications. So when we look at how to access housing modifications, the first thing that we need to do is take inventory of our home. So when we're looking at our home, we need to be asking questions like, how many steps do I have to get into my house? How wide are my doorways? Can I access my bathroom? Do I have a roll-in shower if I ever need one? What level of modification do I have, and what's most important? When I help families look at their housing modification needs, my first step is, can they get into their home? So I start at the outside and I look at the driveway, the path of travel, the sidewalk or lack thereof. I look at, do they have steps to get into their house? How wide are their doorways? What are some recommendations that we can give? These are two pictures of a bathroom modification that was done for someone who sustained a spinal cord injury. And they had the traditional tub in the bathroom, which they had ripped out, and they put a roll-in shower in, and they cut the cabinet out underneath the vanity and put a curtain so that the individual could roll up underneath it. So when we're talking about housing modifications, it's important to take stock of what resources do you have to draw on. What I typically tell people is a ramp typically costs between $2,500 and $5,000. It all depends on the length of your ramp, how many landings you need, so that can change. A bathroom modification is typically between $10,000 and $15,000 if you're doing a full bathroom modification with a roll-in shower, accessible commode, and accessible sink area. So those are some pretty significant numbers. So the first thing that individuals have to look at is, do they have a personal savings account to help pay for these things? Do they have stocks that they can cash in that would not be an undue financial burden to them? What are their personal resources? There are tax credits available for home modifications. If you make a modification to make your house more visitable or more livable with a disability, you can get a tax credit. There's forms, and we'll cover that in the next slide. Build United is for Harrisonburg-Rockingham County. We have Renewing Homes, which is for Stanton, Augusta, Waynesboro. Habitat for Humanity will often help in the Lexington area. The TAP program will help with Bath County. Then we have the Medicaid waiver funding. We have the RUAM, and we have Granting Freedom are some of the programs that we work with here at Vail. So I'm going to take each one of these, minus the personal savings, and focus on each one as we go through. So the Livable Home Tax Credit is for home modification. If you purchase or build a new accessible residence, or you retrofit your home, you can be eligible for this tax credit. It's $5,000 for the purchase of a new accessible residence, or 50% of the cost of retrofitting an accessible residence, not to exceed $5,000. So for the example of the bathroom modification, let's say the bathroom modification is going to cost $10,000 and you're retrofitting it. You can apply for this Livable Home Tax Credit at 50% of that cost, which would be the $5,000 that you cannot exceed. When you go to do your taxes, you would attach this tax certificate and tax credit, which is a dollar for dollar deduction. So if you have a state tax liability, meaning you owe taxes, this is a dollar for dollar deduction. So if you owe $200, it will take off $200. And this can roll for 7 years. So you can apply that $5,000 credit for 7 years till you run out of it. Okay. How you access that is you can go on the DCHD site, the Department for Community Housing Development. To qualify for it, for a new resident, it must have at least 3 features of universal design. Or if you're retrofitting, it must include at least 1 accessibility feature that becomes a permanent part of the structure. So again, a bathroom modification, a ramp, those become part of the permanent structure. It can't be a portable ramp that can come and go. Is there a cap? Well, for the whole state, there's a $1 million cap. Now that builders are utilizing this cap, they are going more quickly, but we like to make sure that people know that it is available for homeowners to retrofit. And then you will see down here the Schedule CR. That is where they can find the individual return, that the form that needs to be attached to their individual return to access that. Primarily the individuals who utilize this are individuals who have some personal savings or the ability to take out a small loan and don't meet the income requirements for the other programs that we have. So this is a really important resource to have for our individuals who have some resources or some additional income higher than lower income programs. Build United. Build United is for residents that own their home and reside in Harrisonburg City or Rockingham County. You apply online. You must meet income eligibility requirements, and it has to be for health, safety, weatherization, or accessibility. This program is an amazing program that utilizes volunteers. However, it is a long waiting period. It can take upwards of 4 to 6 months for projects to get completed. It was shut down during COVID, and there's still discussion ongoing about can it open. So for us, for today, we also utilize the CARES Act money to help with some of these projects. Renewing homes. This is for residents that own their home and reside in Stanton City, Waynesboro City, and Augusta County. This application is also online, so individuals need to apply it online. And it is also for low-income homeowners. It has the same qualifiers as Build United: safety, health, weatherization, accessibility. The Habitat for Humanity is for individuals who reside in Lexington, Buena Vista, Rockbridge. I say that this can sometimes help. They primarily focus on building new homes, but sometimes they are able to help with retrofitting homes based on special circumstances. So we refer people to them to have that conversation about their specific situation. TAP stands for Total Action for Progress. It serves Bath County, Rockbridge, Buena Vista, and Lexington. This is a program that I would say Vail is not quite as familiar with. I do believe that we should reach out to them and ask them to present at one of our staff meetings. This is for assistance for individuals residing in these areas if they meet eligibility. And this link, the tapintohope.org program _group/housing, takes you directly to their housing program. So I'm going to click on that link here for just a second. And excuse me. See if it works to take us out to the website. If not, we'll move on to the next. Oh, here we go. All right, so you should be able to see this, that it talks about different programs that they have. This is where I think we're looking at indoor plumbing rehabilitation. We still have individuals that do not have indoor plumbing.
Hey, Gail, the only thing we can see is your PowerPoint.
Still?
Yes.
Okay, well, click on that link and it will take you to where they have weatherization programs, they have indoor plumbing, so that will walk you through. But I do think that maybe Emma would like to reach out to them and see if they will present at one of our staff meetings. That's just my thought. So there we go. Medicaid waiver funding. If an individual receives a Medicaid waiver, one of the DD waivers, which is the community living waiver, the FIS waiver, I think it's also available under building independence, but Andrea will hop in and correct me, or Chelsea if I'm wrong on that one. Or the CCC Plus waiver. There's a annual availability of $5,000 to environmental modifications. For the DD waiver, they should work with their case manager to access, and for the CCC Plus, they need to work with their care coordinator. We have found that unfortunately, a lot of times the care coordinators don't know how to access that. It is our role to help them figure out how to access that, to unravel their hands, to go to their supervisors and say, hey, this person needs an environmental mod. We need you to help your care coordinator know how to access that money. Let us know how we can help you. We also reach out to DMAS and say, we've been waiting for 7 months. What should the time frame be here? I'm hoping to see more of accessing these funds, as I believe it is an underutilized resource that is attached to these waivers. But that is a resource for our families that are utilizing waiver services. Next, we have the rental unit accessibility modification. We refer to that in-house as RUAM. That is through Virginia Housing. It is funded to assist with modifications for rental units. So this is for anyone in our service area that rents their home. They have to earn 80% or less of the area median income, which I believe is somewhere around $47,000. The modifications made to the rental unit must relate to the tenant's ability to function on a daily basis. So an example of that is if I cannot bathe because I don't have access and I need a roll-in shower, then I would be advocating for a roll-in shower. If I need a ramp, then I would be advocating for that. One of the things to keep in mind with this program is it requires the landlord to sign off and agree to the modification. And under fair housing, most of the time, unless there is a situation that is extenuating, most of the time a landlord is not able to say no. They will not allow the modification. But under fair housing, they have to say yes, they will allow the modification as long as it doesn't destroy the integrity of the house or the apartment that they're renting. They can require that it be done by a licensed contractor, which under this program, it must be completed by a licensed contractor. They can require that the tenant put it back the way it was prior to the modification under fair housing. But those are agreements between the tenant and the landlord. We only get involved when a landlord is refusing to allow the modification and to help educate the landlord on what they can and can't say so they don't get themselves into a fair housing complaint. The modifications are available for up to $6,000 every 5 years. So if a modification is going to cost $6,500, they have to show where they're coming up with that other $500. These applications have to be completed through a Center for Independent Living, which is Vail for our area. It's a lot of paperwork gathering. There are a lot of information from the contractors that we gather. We have to gather the quotes, the estimates, the landlord paperwork, the applicant's paperwork, and we submit that into the portal. Then Virginia Housing looks at it. They give their stamp of approval. Once they give their stamp of approval, we get with the contractor and they have 120 days to complete that project. And then we have to go back out and do an assessment at the end to make sure that it was done properly, appropriately, and that the tenant is in agreement with it. One of the things with utilizing this program is because there is a fair amount of work on our end, there is a small stipend that Virginia Housing pays Vail to administer this program. So we are pleased to offer this program, and it has been well utilized. It's becoming more understood and better utilized. We also currently have a marketing campaign going on that we mailed out a lot of information on it. We also have a public service announcement on the TV as well as on the radio. So our calls for this program are increasing. We have Granting Freedom. This is our program for veterans. This is also through Virginia Housing. They must own their home. It cannot be used to pay for the costs that are required to be provided by the housing owner if it's a rental unit. I'm sorry, it can be rental or own the home. If they are paying rent to a person, let's say my mother lives with me and I'm making her pay rent to me and I also live in the home, she would not be eligible for this program. The individual must have a service-connected disability, even if that's just 1%. There is a form that they get from the military that states that they have a service-related injury and they have to be able to produce that document. It is a maximum of a $6,000 modification. So again, anything over that, they have to be able to show how they could pay for, or they would utilize another grant that's called HISA that they work with the Veterans Office to access. We can use these funds for ramps, walk-in tubs, spa-like tubs, jacuzzis, roll-in showers. Applicants who receive an award for granting freedom may not also apply for the RUAM. It's one or the other. And this program is applied through VAIL as well. So where do I start? VAIL has several options counselors, all of which are missing in action except for Gail. So if you've got one of these, you reach out to Gail, and Gail's working with Taylor and Emma and anybody else as needed to help me out with all of these. But we meet with people, we explore their options for home modifications that may be needed. So we ask that they call or email, and we'll reach out and make an appointment. I go out and do home evals for people to help them know what their accessibility needs are, look at the house, what things might work for them, and then help them know which program would be best for them. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to take your questions at this time. So if there are no questions, I'm going to take that as a sign as either everybody is off screen and not paying a lick of attention to me, or I did such a great job of explaining the program that no one has a thought of needing any more information.
We'll go with option B, Gail.
We'll go with option B, that everyone was just paying such close attention to me.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, Gail, thank you for presenting on these options. We did record the session so that it can be available at a later date, and it'll be available on the server. And I think we're still deciding how or if we're going to post them for the public. But again, thank you, Gail. And I will go ahead and end today's Lunch and Learn. Please feel free to join us on Thursday, which is October the 15th, at which point we will have Jessica DiCarlo from DARS on.
Good.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Bye.